Hello there, we're back with another week of Hayden's Huddle, so let's jump right into this week's board. We've got some great stories on here, plenty of stuff that hasn't been getting all the coverage, but to start, we're going to look at the stuff that has been getting the coverage. Boring as it may be, this is this week's big buzz. The best thing of the last 7 days was undoubtedly the first MLB no-hitter in 11 years, accomplished by Yankees pitcher Domingo Germán. All I learned about Domingo Germán after this no-hitter was his assault case that everyone mentioned with the perfect game. Moving on, Shohei Ohtani has absolutely taken over the entire sport of baseball. Like, all of it. Both sides of the field. He ripped a 10-strikeout, 2-home-run game a few days ago, undoubtedly securing the title as best player in the league. And finally, Damian Lillard took over the NBA offseason by finally officially requesting a trade after teasing us about it for literal years. Every day the Heat seem like the more and more likely destination, but Portland can trade him anywhere. And with us waiting on where Dame will end up, that wraps up our big buzz of the week. As we jump into our headline stories of the week, we first enter the MLB, which I actually have like 5 baseball videos up now. I just made a baseball playlist, so I guess I'm a baseball YouTuber. Enjoy that. Now, the All-Star teams were recently released, and something a little odd was the entire goddamn Atlanta Braves roster was on the All-Star team. Maybe not the entire team, but 8 players from the Braves on the All-Star team. How many people are even on a baseball field at once? 7, 8. Only 9 play at once. The whole team is literally eating. Now, funny enough, the Braves aren't even the best team in the MLB right now, sitting a cool game behind the Rays, but this hasn't stopped them from taking over the best of the best in Dodger Stadium for the All-Star game. The LA-bound game will once again not determine home field advantage for the World Series, as it hasn't since 2017, which sucks to me. I think the MLB had a great thing giving the All-Stars something to play for. Otherwise, we'd derive into what has become of the NBA and NFL events, which are universally hated. But for now, let's get back to the board. Going for another headliner, we enter the peculiar world of professional cycling, where everyone's probably cheating. Now, if you remember last week's video, we had some chaos with twins throughout sports, and 2 more twins have done their best to turn that tide this week. In the first leg of the Tour de France, twins Adam and Simon Yates took first and second place respectively. The Tour de France is the biggest bike race in the world, and I'd be willing to wager my left nut that it's the only bike race you can name off the top of your head. But even with 2 heavy favorites going into the race that weren't themselves, the Yates twins pushed through and earned the victory. They actually raced for different teams, and they went through the race on their own accord until the very final stretch, where they pulled away from the pack together. Adam, who took first place over his brother, credited the familiarity and how much they trained together as a big help in him winning the race. It's not too often there's biking news and it's positive, so you'll love to see it. As we come back to our home screen, it's gotta be time for the 3 of the week. We're all over the place with these highlight plays, starting off with the Kenosha Kingfish. Northwoods League Baseball has some sick names going, but check out this flying catch from Adding Pottinger. And yes, I meant flying, not diving. This man soars through the air like an eagle on this beautiful 4th of July weekend. Moving on to number 2, we got an even cooler sport, pro disc golf. Marianne Must. God, that is an unfortunate last name. The doinks this round projectile 318 feet for the banger. Absolute great job, Marianne. And for our number 1 play of the week, the Savannah Bananas give it to us. Not on the field, that stuff annoys me, but by the communications director for the game. And the best part, fan catches counted as outs on this special day for a theme. So this guy actually got involved in the action with this highlight play. Props to him, and let's toss it back to the board to finish out our mainline stories. I want to dive into NBA free agency with our 3rd category, but I have no clue where to even begin. Along with the new CBA rulebook being dropped, Anthony Edwards was hit with a mega extension. But what may be my favorite piece has to be the Houston Rockets dropping an absolute fortune on power duo Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks. This is a 2010 New York Knicks move if I have ever seen one. Also, I don't know how this happened, but Dante Exum is here again. Okay, welcome back, bro. Utah Jazz legend. But we've seen so far most guys are staying put. That includes Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Kyrie, Draymond, Jeremy Grant. They're all staying where they were. Now, everyone has their eyes sort of on the Spurs right now because they have like $25 million in cap space, which is far and away the most in the league. The Spurs have been rumored to be a part in a possible Damian Lillard trade, but they also have the potential to go after guys like Grant Williams, PJ Washington, or Kelly Oubre Jr. We'll have to wait and see what Greg Popovich is steaming up in his bat cave, I suppose, and for now, we can get into our last story of the day. I don't mean to bore you just by bringing the sport up, but we're talking about golf, where Ricky Fowler has confirmed his life existence by winning his first tournament in over 4 years at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Ricky showed us why he's one of the most beloved golfers, and I love to see it. I feel like he was always one of the big guys of the past decade or so, but he's always been a half level below the major names in terms of fame. Fowler won this thing on a playoff, just edging out a three-way tie. Adam Hadwin, one of the runner-ups from that tie, tweeted out in a show of sportsmanship to Ricky. I was actually surprised seeing this. What a classy, nice thing to do from the guy who was so close to winning him. Oh, he's Canadian. Now, Ricky's 34, and I'm really glad he got one here because his window's closing. It's so easy to see him as a lovable, sweet kid golfing out there, but he's almost 40 now. And that about wraps up our main four this week. I hope you got some good brain fuel. But you're going to want to shut your brain off for this last one, and not do anything you see here at home. We got to be the good guys, because someone has done something bad. This week in the NFL, a few long gambling suspensions were handed out to players. I want to focus on the Indianapolis Colts' Rashad Berry, though, because, well, they're all basically the same. I just want to show you guys why they're dumb. We're going to highlight this one. Now, forget debating the NFL rule for a second. Forget however stupid you think the NFL rules are on gambling. That doesn't matter. You can't gamble in the sport you are playing in. Have whatever opinion you want about that, but it doesn't change the fact. And you know the rule. It's very clear. These guys are knowingly breaking the rule, going in and knowing what they're doing, and still doing it. The closest situation that I can even think to compare this to is a couple of years ago when Sha'Carri Richardson, the female sprinter, missed the Olympics for a positive weed test. Everyone was pissed. People were saying, why can't Olympic athletes smoke weed? But that wasn't the point. She knowingly broke the rule. No matter how dumb everyone thought it was, no matter how dumb it is, she broke it knowing what she was doing. It's a random comparison, but I don't know, it just gives me the same vibes. And I just don't feel like we can excuse this type of behavior anymore, especially after how public the Calvin Ridley suspension was for the same thing last year. These guys were all released basically instantly by their teams, except one guy was already a free agent, but just mindless, man. And that about drags us to the finish line. That's really all we got to talk about today. Please comment down below. Let's have some chats. I hope you learned something. Toodles.